Welcome into the CBS Sports College Football Pick Show. I'm your host, Richard Johnson, joined by my guy, Brad Crawford, fresh off the pickleball court, and Emory Hunt, who will teach you a little something about Louisiana if you let him go. We're going to start, however, with Arizona State versus Utah in the Big 12 this weekend. Big matchup and some late breaking news that will affect your gambling weekend. Jeff Sims expected to start at quarterback for the Sun Devils against Utah. The Utes are an 8.5-point favorite. That's because Sam Leavitt popped up on the Big 12 availability report last night as doubtful. According to our Matt Zenitz, it is a lower leg injury for Sam Leavitt. And Kenny Dillingham on Arizona Sports Radio said, and I quote, "If he plays in the game, it will be a mini miracle regarding Sam Leavitt." Guys, this is news I don't think we're really expecting here. It's quite a surprise. Jeff Sims is himself a journeyman, started at Georgia Tech seemingly in like 2050. I mean, the guy's been in college football for a long time. Brad, I'll go to you first. How do you think this affects the Sun Devils' chances, obviously in the game, but as well against the spread?
Yeah, for Arizona State fans, I'm hoping this injury to Sam Leavitt is not long-term because that would be fatal to this season's Big 12 title chances. Man, my last memory of Jeff Sims was a couple of years ago. He had all those fumbles against Colorado for Nebraska in that spotlight game, and I just think it's a worrisome spot, especially if Leavitt's injury is serious. I know it's lower leg. Our Matt Zane at CBS Sports reported that earlier this week. There's a good chance that we could only have one unbeaten team in the Big 12 after this weekend, depending on what happens here in this Arizona State game, BYU, Arizona, and then, of course, Texas Tech, the highest-ranked squad against Kansas. So this is a bad spot for Arizona State, and that's why I think you've seen the line start to raise a little bit heading into kickoff.
Emory, with this Arizona State, sorry about that, Emory, but with this Arizona State team, how do you think they've been building off of last year's success? It's been a little interesting, especially in the wide receiver court, besides Jordan Tyson this season.
Yeah, it's fascinating because when you think about what we saw from them last year, you thought, okay, yeah, they lose Cam Scatterbo, but you got another running back coming in, Kanye Udo, who hasn't been the guy. They've found someone else to be the guy, and you thought they would just pick up right where they left off because we were saying, oh, they didn't have Jordan Tyson in the postseason, and now they do, and they've been kind of inconsistent, to be honest. They're not looking like the same Sun Devils that we saw last season, and if Jeff Sims is going to play in this ball game, it kind of makes them one-dimensional. They're going to have to rely on a running game, both with the running backs and the legs of Jeff Sims, because the passing of him at Nebraska, at Georgia Tech has been kind of inconsistent. And Brad talked about turnovers. That's another big thing. So you want to mitigate that by leaning on a run game, which plays all into the hands of what Utah wants to do defensively. They could stop the one thing you do well and make you play left-handed. That's a problem for Arizona State. That's why this line jumped from 5.5 to 8.5 in just a day. So it's a significant injury for the Sun Devils.
Yeah, I mean, you saw Cam Scatterbo doing backflips against against the Philadelphia Eagles for the New York Giants last night on Thursday Night Football. Arizona State is 5-0 on the road under Kenny Dillingham when scoring 24-plus points. He's 1-6 when scoring less than 24. Arizona State has the second best cover percentage in FBS since 2024. It's 78.9%. Kenny Dillingham has it rolling. On the Utah side of things in this matchup, obviously, it's a massive home environment in Salt Lake City for the Utes. But Emory, they got checked by Texas Tech. Texas Tech ran in there and stole their chain and physically dominated them. How do you think the Utes rebound from that matchup to try to assert some sort of supremacy in the Big 12 against another big dog in the league in Arizona State?
Sometimes things have to align for you to get back on the right track, right? So you have a very good Arizona State team coming in, because on paper it's going to say Arizona State, and everybody remembers Arizona State of last year. You have them coming into your place, but what that line won't say is they're going to be without Sam Leavitt. So it doesn't matter to you. You're going to go out there and say, hey, we beat Arizona State. We looked good against against an in-conference rival and, in front of our home fans. And what's going to be tough for Arizona State facing this type of environment and this type of football team, this disciplined football team, is what made Sam Leavitt special is his ability to, make plays above the X's and O's. That's not Jeff Sims' game. What also made Sam Leavitt special is his ability to lock in situational football moments. That's not Jeff Sims' game. So if you're Utah, this plays right into your hands. Hey, you can play a clean game. You can play an efficient game. You could dominate in this ball game and thus raise the eyes of the voters around the country. Like, hey, maybe Utah is a team that we need to be keeping an eye on because of how they handle this opponent in Arizona State coming in.
Utah 6-1 against the spread in the last 7 games. In the Red River rivalry in Dallas, Texas, the State Fair, go get your corn dog and something fried. John Mateer upgraded to probable versus Texas. Look, the Horns plus 1.5, and it is expected that John Mateer will play. That is something that, quite frankly, a lot of us didn't expect a couple weeks ago when Mateer had surgery on a fractured hand injury that he sustained against Auburn. That is his throwing hand, by the way. Shout out to the doctor and shout out to the Chipotle worker who gave us an early inkling that Mateer was going to be ready to go, at least was going to try to go. The Sooners are second in points per game allowed this season at 7.2. They've only allowed 3 touchdowns this season overall, and they go up against a Texas offensive line that is absolutely reeling after getting dominated by Florida in the swamp last week. Quite frankly, Brad, this is something of a college football playoff elimination game for Texas already. It's 1-game seasons for the Horns moving on. I know you are locked in on the rankings and the college football playoff projections. Besides the spread and beside the result here, how do you think this could determine, quite frankly, Texas's season this year?
I agree with you 100%, man. This is certainly a show-me game for the Texas Longhorns. Any way you crack it, especially from the selection committee's point of view, that was a bad loss in Gainesville. Florida is going to challenge for maybe 6-7 wins this season. Meanwhile, Texas is a team preseason #1, like Penn State preseason #2 last week, took a bad loss. So this is a must-win game for Texas, not only in the SEC top-tier championship picture, but to stay in that playoff race based on what the Longhorns have left. My biggest question here, man, is at what percent are we getting John Mateer? Is he 60%? Is he 70%? And I'm just guessing here, but I think Oklahoma's quarterback run game, probably not something that's part of the game plan this week if John Mateer plays. And for Oklahoma, that's a bad sign because John Mateer on 3rd down, he can kind of get after it, move the chains against a pretty fast and talented Texas defense. So this is a spot for me that I do think Texas rebounds. But the Mateer question is very funny because Brent Venables said 72 hours ago he hasn't practiced. I'm waiting on the doctor's orders. And now all of a sudden, yeah, he's probable. It's just kind of funny, that kind of gamesmanship mentality from Brent Venables.
Emory, where do you land on the Arch Manning of it all so far this season? In my opinion, I think he's looked a lot better in the last couple weeks. Obviously, Sam Houston, his opponent, Texas will never have a problem with, and they dominated, but he looked good. He showed some things that he didn't show against San Jose State, for instance. And then against Florida, in a different way, I thought he handled that well, right? He's under duress all afternoon in Gainesville, really taking bullets from that defensive line. And I thought he played pretty well, particularly in the second half, given the circumstances. Where do you land on Arch, Emory?
Man, this is the spotlight game for him because this is a true test. Florida was the appetizer. This is the entree in terms of defense with regards to Oklahoma. So when we're talking about John Mateer, I don't care if it's John Deere, John Candy, it won't matter. It's about Brent Venables versus Arch Manning and how he's able to play above that what he's going to see from a Brent Venables defense that's excellent, and they're a great open field tackling team. They don't have many busts out there in the secondary. They don't give up a lot of big plays, so he's going to have to earn it. And here's a chance for Arch Manning to kind of change the narrative. Like you said, he started to play a little bit better in that second half against Florida, connected on some few passes downfield to get them back into the game to kind of match scores with Florida. But he had those turnovers. And at the end of the day, man, like that's something that can't happen in this ball game. And we know this tends to be one of these wild back and forth affairs. So here's an opportunity in a big spotlight game against a rival for Arch Manning to not only, turn around the Texas season, but also change some narratives about his play personally.
Texas 1-4 against the spread so far this season. Oklahoma State versus Houston. Quickly to round us out here. Sam Jackson V expected to start at quarterback for Oklahoma State in this game. Houston is a 14.5-point favorite. That is according to our Matt Zenitz. Sam Jackson played quarterback at TCU and Cal. Then he switched to wide receiver at Auburn, and he played wide receiver at Oklahoma State so far this season as well. But with Zane, Flores, doubtful, and Haas Haney out for a significant amount of time, Sam Jackson steps in, not the freshman quarterbacks that Oklahoma State has on the roster. Brad, it's been an up and down season, but obviously mostly down for Oklahoma State so far. Mike Gundy obviously out of the job. There's a lot going on in Stillwater here about the future of the athletic program and the future of the football team. Quickly, how do you expect Sam Jackson to affect Oklahoma State in a positive or negative in this game against the really good Houston Cougars front, by the way?
Yeah, if there's a silver lining for Oklahoma State season, it's no one has high expectations the rest of the way. So throw caution to the wind, play this game against a good Houston team, probably one that's going to bowl season now, already with 5 wins. So I think Oklahoma State is going to be tough to cover this game, especially with Sam Jackson at quarterback. He wasn't even QB3 to start the season. Like you said, he's a converted wideout now. I mean, they parted ways with Mike Gundy a couple of weeks ago, interim coach. Now is going to try to rally the troops, so to speak. We've seen teams in this spot play well. Virginia Tech a couple of weeks ago, firing their coach and then all of a sudden winning that game and then playing pretty well against Wake Forest too. So I think it's a spot where Oklahoma can keep it competitive against Houston. But I like Willie Fritz's squad, man. To begin the season 5.5 wins, that was the projected win total. And for Houston to already be just about at that number through midseason, it's been a very impressive showing for the Cougs.
When we come back on the CBS Sports College Football Pick Show, we're going to go to the game of the week, Indiana at Oregon. It's the game of the week, Indiana and Oregon. Let's talk about our picks standings first and foremost. Look, I'm just here so I don't get fined, bringing up the rear behind my guys, Emory Hunt and Brad Crawford, who are over 500, over the Fernando Mendoza line. And then there's me, sitting there, just hanging on, just happy to be here. Indiana goes to Eugene as a 7.5-point favorite. Both teams are 5-0. It's the big one of the week. 55.5 is the total. Let's talk about the game first. Obviously, the quarterbacks first and foremost. Fernando Mendoza, transfer in from Cal, has been huge for Indiana, as has Dante Moore, who sat and waited behind some guys and has come on strong this year. Both these quarterbacks have combined for 30 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. Mendoza has 3 games with 4 touchdowns and no picks. Moore has 4 games with 3 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. Both of those stats are most in the country for each quarterback. Personally, I love what Indiana has brought to the table this year. They've done the first thing that good teams do, which is dominate bad teams. Meanwhile, Oregon, as you saw, I was there in person, live and living color, went on the road to Penn State in the whiteout atmosphere and came out with the big win in overtime. Both these teams coming off a bye week, both these teams playing really well. Brad, I'll go to you first. Let's just talk about this quarterback matchup first. Who do you think has the upper hand, Mendoza or Moore?
Yeah, I think Dante Moore does because he's playing at home. This game was at Indiana. I might go with Fernando Mendoza, but this is the toughest matchup, Richard, for both these teams this season. Both clubs, the Ducks and Hoosiers, have top 10 wins. Indiana beat a then top 10 Illinois team by 50 points. And then Oregon, like you said, went on the road to Happy Valley. I don't know how much of that Penn State win carries weight now after the Nittany Lions lost at UCLA last weekend. Kind of a bad loss, really bad loss for James Franklin. And for me, not only is this Indiana's toughest game, but it's Oregon so far too, because it's the first time Oregon's defense and that nasty front seven for the Ducks and Dan Lanning is going to play an offense that is one of college football's tops in scoring margin, total offense, first downs, third down conversions. Kirk Cinetti's group does it all. So I'm expecting a very competitive and an awesome game and quarterback battle Saturday in Eugene.
Emory, I know you love yourself an underdog, and Indiana is no longer an underdog besides being quite literally an underdog in this game. But overall, the Hoosiers are not an underdog story right now. This team that went to the college football playoff last year, but Curt Cignetti, I know you love a guy who talks all that mess like Curt Cignetti, who's not afraid and who has this program believing that they're front runners, not underdogs.
Yeah, you see what he has done at Indiana University of Pennsylvania. You've seen what he's done at James Madison. And he's doing it at Indiana, man. And what's unique about Indiana is the high school football is not vast in the state of Indiana like it is in Virginia or as it is in Pennsylvania. So he's really doing a great job and not only supplementing the high school talent, but going out and getting transfers. And once you instill belief in someone like he has done with his team, like, hey, man, you guys are favorites. You guys are not underdogs. It makes sense that they go out there and bust their tail for him. And this team this year is much better than last year's team, especially in the trenches on both sides of the ball. So this is truly an equal matchup. And to your original question of, who has the advantage, I would probably lean more to Dante Moore because of his athleticism and ability to make things happen off script. Mendoza can run too, but he's not Dante Moore like in terms of his elusiveness. But man, pound for pound, a team going in knowing that they have to show and prove because people still don't believe in them. And you also have last year's playoff loss hanging over their heads, last year's game versus Ohio State hanging over their heads. So this is not only big for Mendoza and those players, but it's also big for Curt Cignetti. I felt like he was a little bit conservative against Ohio State and also Notre Dame. He's going to let everything out the bag today or in this ball game against Oregon.
Oregon and Indiana are two of only 4 FBS teams this season that are undefeated while averaging 40 points per game and allowing less than 15 points per game. Texas Tech and Missouri are the others. But you pay attention to that because there's a way that both of these teams are able to manage games that I think is really important. Oregon, with under Dan Lanning, does not ever let its foot off the gas. They use edgewise advantages to win games. They go for it on 4th down. They go for 2. They try to maximize. Indiana is similar. If they get up on you, they are mashing the gas and they're going 100 miles an hour. That's what I think, Brad, is the most interesting thing about this matchup. It's a styles makes fights as far as how both of these teams handle opponents that they are significantly better than. Now they get to play each other.
Yeah, not to mention, Richard, that Oregon last couple of years under Dan Lanning has played from behind very sparingly. We saw Oregon get behind against Ohio State early in that Rose Bowl quarterfinal last year, and then the deficit spiraled on the Ducks. That cannot happen Saturday if you're an Oregon fan, especially playing at home. But if Mendoza and that Hoosiers offense gets the ball first, goes 8 plays, 80 yards, and he finds an early rhythm, well, then it's an issue possibly for that Oregon defense. Can we think about it? We talk about these 2 quarterbacks being 2 of the best in the country. The winner of this game likely produces the Heisman frontrunner here at midseason. So not only is it imperative for Indiana to get off to a hot start, but Dante Moore has to be the Dante Moore we've seen through the first 5 weeks as well. That's why I consider this the toughest game thus far for both teams.
I think it's a fascinating offensive line matchup in this game with what both of these teams got out of the transfer portal, right? For Oregon, you've got an Isaiah World and Emmanuel Pregnon that they brought in from the portal. Indiana has a Pat Coogan and a Khalil Benson. Those are 2 players for both teams up front that are good. Emory, quickly, the running back matchup, the guys running behind those 2 offensive lines, Roman Hemby and Dyer Hill for both teams. They're good backs for each team.
Yeah, they really are, and they go about their business in different ways. Hemby is more of your one-cut downhill guy, and on the other side, you have a lot of speed and explosiveness coming out that Ducks backfield. That's kind of their mantra, the speed element, but it's speed versus power, which kind of summarizes this matchup for both teams. Speed on Oregon, Indiana with the power and strength.
All right, guys, let's pick it. Brad and I are of an accord here. I think this is going to be a tight game. I think both of these teams out of the bye week, by the way, I think they've got a little bit more on defense. I think they're going to be able to handle what the opponents will throw at them, and I think they will be prepared because of that. I think this will be a tight game. This will be a well-played game, but this will be a close game. Give me the under 55.5.
Yeah, I'm going under 55.5, mainly because I think it's going to set up the same way Oregon at Penn State did. Those 2 teams, for 3.5 quarters, it was a 17-3 game. That game was well under until it went to double overtime and eclipsed that number. I think we get it here. Under 55.5 is my play for Indiana, Oregon.
There's a way for both of us to cash here because all 3 of us, because we have the tight game, which I like because I also like Indiana keep it under that number plus 7.5. Mendoza is a better quarterback than Drew Aller. I know that's not saying much, but that gives them a shot in this ball game. And I think it'll be even tighter than what we saw the Penn State Oregon game is. So for me, I like the under, but I also love plus 7.5 for Curt Cignetti and his Hoosiers.
It's our big time game of the week on CBS, 3:30 Eastern time. Indiana on the road at Oregon. It should be a good one. When we come back on the CBS Sports College Football Pick Show, we're going to blitz you. It's our Blitz Pick segment next. Welcome back to the CBS Sports College Football Picks Show, our CBS Picks update through week 6, I should say, entering in to week 7. Again, I'm just here for the vibes. I'd like to thank Brad and Emory for allowing me to join them. It's just bringing up the rear here, trying to keep things light, levity. Well done to Brad and Emory for their picks all season. Let's hit you with a blitz. I'll start us off, fellas. First pick from me. We're going to go to the Big 12. Iowa State money line -136 against Colorado. Guys, the vibes out in Boulder are just not good. Deion Sanders had another health procedure this week. He's expecting to coach on Saturday, but I think Iowa State gets off the schneid here. Tough loss for them against Cincinnati last weekend, but I think they bring it against Colorado and they're able to beat the Buffs.
Like that pick too, Richard. My first pick for week 7 after my first losing season of the show. Washington State plus 33.5 at Ole Miss. Number somewhere around 31, 32 now. I like it anything over 30. This is a classic overlook spot for the Rebels because they play at Georgia next week. Washington State is coming off an open date. I know Ole Miss is too, but this is just a score as much as we can early and then pull the starters and coast. I think Washington State scores enough in the second half to cover 33.5 points in Oxford against an unbeaten and my current SEC favorite Ole Miss team.
I'm going to go to America's quarterback in Haynes King and America's team in Georgia Tech, laying the 14.5 points against Virginia Tech. Now, Virginia Tech has played better since removing Brent Pryor from the head coaching position, but man, Georgia Tech is now down the back stretch of their season in terms of, hey, we have to lock in. We got our scare versus Wake Forest. We got to make sure we win with style points. And here comes Virginia Tech. I look for Haynes King and that Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets offense coming off of a bye, debuting new helmets, new uniforms to light up Virginia Tech. So I feel comfortably in laying these 14.5 points.
Next pick, give me Michigan plus 114 against USC. That is on the money line. I think the Wolverines drag this game to the pits of hell, and they take USC to deep water, and USC is not able to swim with them. Michigan makes this an absolute rock fight, a physical matchup. USC wants to get out. They want to run. And they want to be high flying. I don't think they're able to do it against the Wolverines. Give me the maize and blue.
I'm going to stay in Los Angeles. I'm on the other side there. Give me the Trojans -2 against Michigan. We talk about this every week, fellas. The ranked team going on the road against unranked, and Vegas has the unranked team the favorite. That's cashed 7 out of 8 times this season. We saw it happen last week when Iowa State lost at Cincinnati, got down big in that game. I don't think USC blows out Michigan, but coming off a bye, Lincoln Riley, this is the spot for him to get his signature win. Obviously, if you're backing USC there, you see the numbers don't really, back up this play, but I just like USC here. Michigan's a team hasn't been explosive at the wideout department as I thought the Wolverines would be this season. Bryce Under was playing really good as a freshman quarterback, but I like USC here under Lincoln Riley to beat Michigan, perhaps take Michigan outside of the top 25.
Remember this game last year, how everyone was like, ha, you ain't got no passing game, talk about Michigan, right? And they went out there and beat USC. It was crazy. And so I think they're better this year offensively. Obviously, Justice Haynes has 100 yards plus rushing the game. He's been outstanding. Underwood, it's a lot better than any iteration of quarterback they had last season. And so now they have the confidence going on the road to take on the USC team that does not want to play a physical ball game. They would rather not have a physical discussion in the trenches on the perimeter at any point in time in this ball game, which is absurd to even think about coming from a USC team historically that used to thrive on beating folks up every game, right? So I like Michigan to win a toughness battle, the confidence going into this matchup, having beat these guys last year. Now they come in with a better team. Give me Michigan on the money line as well.
Speaking of moneyline bets, let me give you another one. USF moneyline -107 versus North Texas. It's a massive Friday night G5 game between the Bulls and the Mean Green. Drew Messamaker is a really fun player at quarterback for North Texas. I think he's got tremendous pocket awareness, got tremendous movement skills in the pocket, and a great throwing platform. He's also a great story, a guy who basically has not started a varsity football game ever until this season for North Texas. But I think USF just has a team speed advantage in this game and a physicality that's going to overwhelm North Texas and get it done, even though it's going to be a charged atmosphere sold out in Denton on a Friday night.
That's a great game in the American. Really a game that all G5 fans and Power 4 should be watching. Texas A&M minus 7.5 against Florida is my next pick this week. I like the Aggies to hang a crooked number on Florida, despite the Gators win last week over Texas. I think that weekend set up well for Billy Napier. Florida was coming off that bye. He heard a lot about how bad the team was under his tenure, and the Gators were playing at home. This A&M team, though, is different. Marcel Reed still has not had that fantastic game really since the Notre Dame showing. I think he gets it back together this weekend, and Texas A&M not only holds Florida to 10 to 14 points, but covers the spread rather easily.
I'm going to that Oklahoma-Texas game. Until I see Arch Manning play well versus a big opponent, I can't trust him in the big spot. This is not Oklahoma A&I or Oklahoma Birmingham or Oklahoma Southern. This is Oklahoma, the Sooners. So at the end of the day, when you look at how he plays versus a very good defense, we saw that versus Ohio State. We saw that versus Florida. And we're going to see it again versus Oklahoma and Brent Venables. So I like Oklahoma straight up on the money line. I do not care who is at quarterback for the Sooners. It won't matter. It's about defense versus Arch Manning. They'll win that matchup.
The real question is how much Oklahoma Birmingham would be an underdog in this game if they were in this spot. Let's go to Alabama and Missouri. Missouri went to Tuscaloosa last year and got absolutely blanked by a Crimson Tide team that had all kinds of problems. Tide put their starters back in to preserve the shutout at the end of last game. It's going to be some bad blood because of it in this game, but I think Bama at -3 is able to get this done. I would take this -7, to be honest with you. I think Ty Simpson is playing tremendous football right now. The way he is able to paint the entire field in the passing. It's a full field passing game, especially over the middle of the field. Ty Simpson is on time. He is accurate. He throws with a great platform. And his receivers, Jeremy Bernard and Ryan Williams, as we know, are really good. But them getting Jam Miller back, I think, was massive for the Tide on offense. Love what Ahmad Hardy does for Missouri on offense, but I think Ty Simpson is the better quarterback in this game, and the Tide are the better team.
Yeah, I'm going Alabama -3 as well, Richard. We have similar cards this week. And sort of for your reasons as well. I'm not sold on Missouri's pass defense. The back end of that defense has given up some big plays. Lenore Sellers had a couple of touchdowns a few weeks ago for South Carolina in that win for Missouri. I know Missouri has the top rushing game with Ahmad Hardy in the SEC. I know Missouri's rush defense is also #1. This is a huge spot for Eli Drinkwitz. But I think Alabama, for the third consecutive game, beats a top 20 team. And that'd be impressive because Kalen DeBoer needs all these signature wins he can get to kind of boost that playoff resume. So despite Mizzou playing in a really good spot at home as an unbeaten, I think Alabama -3. I'm going with the Tide.
The running joke is that Haynes King doesn't get started till he gets, smacked around, right? Well, Alabama is the team version of what Haynes King embodies. Since Florida State, this team has looked significantly different. They're playing some legitimate ball, and I agree. Missouri hasn't been tested, since they beat my Raging Cajuns. I've been humble on that. I ain't say nothing about that at all. But in this ball game, this is, to me, their first true test. And with the way Ty Simpson has played, even when they were getting beat down by Florida State, he had some plays in that game. You're like, man, this dude competing. And so at the end of the day, I like how Bama's been battle tested. I think they take care of business, and his number is short enough for me to trust them on the road.
Georgia -3.5 against Alabama's blood rival, Auburn, Georgia's blood rival as well. Give me the dogs. You want to talk about bad vibes. Vibes aren't good at Auburn either, man. I know Auburn's really good in the trenches. A&M struggled with them, for instance. But at the end of the day, I'm not trusting Jackson Arnold to beat a Georgia defense, a Georgia secondary, a Kirby Smart secondary. He's a guy who takes too many sacks, holds onto the ball too long, and I think negates a lot of the good things that Auburn has on its offense. The running back room is really deep. Eric Singleton's a great player, but I think it starts and ends with Jackson Arnold at quarterback. I don't think he can get it done. I think the Dogs have their day here.
My next pick is Texas +1.5 against Oklahoma in Red River. I'm going with the full bounce back here. Arch Manning did not play all that bad in that loss to Florida, but he did have 2 critical turnovers. Almost tied the game late, though, with that pass down there at the 5-yard line. I think this game is the game for Arch Manning to kind of shake off some of the criticism. Now, that being said, Longhorns offensive line has to play well, has to play its best game of the season against an OU defense, frankly, that's top 5 in the country. And total defense, turnover margin. I mean, every category you want to see for Brent Venables, his side of the ball is dominating. But I like Texas here. Oklahoma, regardless of who plays at quarterback, Michael Hawkins or John Mateer, Oklahoma's a team that the second half of the schedule is just brutality starting after this Texas game. So Arch Manning, you see the numbers there. He's due for a big one here in his first season as a starter. And if he beats Oklahoma, he's going to get some, love back on his side. Give me Texas here, plus 1.5.
I'm with Richard on his pick. I'm gonna lay the points with Georgia. I love how their defense is playing. I love the matchup versus Auburn. Auburn used all their best plays against Baylor because they hadn't looked like the same team since. And I just love that Georgia's out there winning with Gunnar Stockton, who is college football's original time traveler. If you showed me a picture of Gunnar Stockton in any decade, I'd be like, yeah, that's about right. He looks like he played in every decade in human history, right? So I love the way Georgia's playing. Stockton is a gamer. He plays above the X's and O's. So give me Georgia all day against Auburn.
Last week, Maryland was up 20-0, and then they very much weren't up 20-0. Gave up the lead, but good teams win, great teams cover. They covered 5.5. Maryland's going to cover 6.5 for me here against Nebraska. I do not like Nebraska's tackle situation on the offensive line. I love Maryland's edge tandem that they have, those freshman edges that they have. Maryland, the Terps cover here for me, plus 6.5.
Yeah, my next pick, you may want to tease this one because the line keeps going up. Florida State minus 9.5 against Pitt. I locked that in earlier this week. Freshman quarterback for Pitt making his first road start. Knowles back-to-back losses. This is a huge opportunity for Mike Norvell to, get back in the good graces of that fan base after losing to Miami, losing to Virginia on the road. This is an ACC game that, frankly, is a must-win for Florida State if they have any shot of playing in Charlotte this season. Going to need some major help there down the stretch. But I like Florida State to score somewhere in the 30s here and really frustrate a freshman quarterback last week that looked pretty darn good for Pitt.
Give me the most talented, athletically gifted quarterback in the SEC. Taylor Green coming off of a bye, coming off of a coaching change. Now you got Bobby Petrino in the driver's seat, and he made some defensive moves, so he knew what was going on. So now you have a little bit of the unknown for Tennessee coming, into this ballgame, welcoming in Arkansas. I like Arkansas plus 12.5 here. Too many points for an unknown. Plus, you have an offense in Arkansas that we know can score. If they can just get 2 stops on defense, this will be a supremely tight game. And now we'll see this one go back and forth. I believe in Bobby Petrino. I believe in Taylor Green. And I believe in these Razorbacks to cover this 12.5 point spread.
Hope our viewers have their offensive line protection set because you just got blitzed. When we come back on the CBS Sports College Football Pick Show, Underdogs plays on your Friday afternoon. Underdog plays on a Friday. I'll get us rolling here on the CBS Sports College Football Pick Show. Kansas State plus 100 against TCU. Now, look, guys, I'm plugging my nose a little bit here because, Dylan Edwards' status up in the air. He's going to go. Kansas State, though, man, to me, I just can't figure this team out. Emory, I mean, at best, 2 or 3 team in the nation, right? Is that what we're calling them? They struggled against an FCS team, struggled across the pond. I think they've gotten rid of their Ireland hangover, Emory, and they get it done in this spot. What do you think about that?
I want someone to believe in me like how you and Mike McClure on Sportsline believe in Kansas State. Man, listen, they're like football's Acme. Y'all keep buying from them. The power pellets ain't gonna work. You never go against a road runner. Stop believing in Kansas State.
Brad, where are you taking us for your underdog play of the week?
First of all, I would lean TCU in that game. TCU is a more complete team this season. Kansas State has not played well fourth quarter execution-wise, but I like it. You've won money this year on Kansas State, so I like that play. I'm going Maryland over Nebraska. I'm 5-1 in upset plays. It's the one category that I've been dominating in this season. I'm interested, though, seeing if the Terps can rebound from that horrific loss last week. 3-touchdown lead at home, lost to Washington, a couple scores late by the Huskies in the fourth quarter. But if Maryland wins this game, they're a win over UCLA next week from being bowl eligible for a team that most had at 4.5 to 5.5 wins this season. And it's a Nebraska team that last week did not look all that great against Michigan State, allowed some big plays in the passing game to Aiden Childs. I like Maryland plus 6.5, but I especially like Maryland on the money line here as my upset of the week.
By the way, you heard I put his underdog record in there right there, right? Just so you know, he's dominating this segment. He's here to win you money, the viewing audience. My man Brad is giving him out. Personally, I like the pick. Like I said, I took Maryland plus 6.5 in our Blitz pick segment. Brad, quickly on Dylan Raiola and Nebraska. This is obviously not a vote of confidence in him, I'm assuming.
No, it's not. And, I'm a guy that had Nebraska potentially at 10-2 coming into the year because I thought Dylan Raiola would take that next step. He's looked good, outside of the second half play a little bit against Michigan. That was a game that Nebraska had to have in September to really challenge for a Big Ten this season. But that said, there's still some spotlight opportunities on the schedule for the Huskers. Beginning Saturday, needs to go to Maryland and win that game for Matt Rule and Dylan both to sort of get one of those upper echelon Big Ten bowl berths.
Emory hit me with an underdog play on the Friday.
I think we have vastly underestimated the amount of money Big Tabasco sauce and Big Sugarcane has promoted in this LSU line. Like, who is still believing in LSU's offense for them to be an 8.5, 9.5 point favorite against South Carolina? Like, what are we doing? Like, give me South Carolina win outright, because Garrett Nussmeier, when they win, he's perfectly fine. When they lose, it's because he's not healthy. Like, I'm not buying it. What I am buying is South Carolina's defense doing a great job against this offensive output against of LSU. They'll play the run on the way to the quarterback. They'll try to make Garrett Nussmeier beat them consistently throwing the football, and that's a losing game, in my opinion, for LSU. This offense hasn't been what we thought it was going to be. Defensively, they've been great, so I expect a low-scoring game because South Carolina's offense isn't the best anyway, but if you let them hang around, Lenora Sellers will find a way to make a way, and that's more so than I could say for Garrett Nussmeier. So I like the Gamecocks to do something they hadn't done since 1994, back when I was 13 years old. A little whippersnapper running around New Orleans. Give me the Gamecocks to go in there and get this one done.
Big Mardi Gras, we are on to you as far as how this line stacks up. Emory, where are you at on Garrett Nussmeier, LSU's quarterback? All the talent in the world, I think his offensive line is failing him. They are not able to run the ball at all this season. That's really with or without Center Braylon Moore up front. What do you think is Nussmeier's biggest struggle so far this season?
Dealing with pressure. And that was something that we saw him do last year. And we can't deal with pressure. Teams know that, so they tend to play tighter on the receivers, making you to make a high leverage throw. They start to send more than you can block, forcing you to play above the X's and O's, or show that you can break camp and use your legs and not spin into sacks. And he hasn't been able to do that. So at the end of the day, it's just dealing with pressure of the moment, pressure of the situation, and pressure of the defense as well.
No pressure here on the CBS Sports College Football Pick Show. When we come back from the break, model plays of the week and a Friday parlay. Welcome back to the CBS Sports College Football Picks Show. The model always says what we can't, and the model says Georgia Southern plus 3.5 versus Southern Miss this week. 73% of the simulations in our CBS Sports Line model see the game this way. Our model is 3-3 so far this season through week 6. Southern Miss resurgent under Charles Huff, new head coach. Interesting team, interesting matchup in that game. All right, let's get you out of here on some fun parlays. Bama -3 is going to anchor my parlay. I think that cashed the three of us in our Blitz Pick segment said we thought Bama will cover, which means obviously Bama will not cover and my parlay will be busted. But Bama -3 first leg of my parlay. Second leg, give me Michigan State team total under 32.5 against UCLA. I don't know. There's something in the water out there with Tim Skipper. Got Jerry Neuheisel in last week to be the offensive coordinator on a short week. Got rid of the defensive coordinator. You got new coaches. It's a new deck, and it's a UCLA team that's got absolutely nothing to lose. So I think they're able to hold Aiden Childs and Michigan State down under that team total 32.5. Give me USF plus 1.5. I take them outright as well, but plus 1.5 as far as my parlay is concerned against North Texas in the Friday night spot. And then Texas Tech moneyline -600 against Kansas for a little something, right? It gets your parlay from plus 506 to plus 607. It's going to cash. It's got a high probability of cashing. And I think with Kansas running back Darian Highshaw up in the air as far as if he's going to go, I think that bodes well for a physical Texas Tech front. That is my parlay plus 607 for the week. Brad, what you got?
Yeah, I wish I would have found a little automatic winner there, like yours tagged at the end there. I love the Texas Tech pick just to add some spice to a four-teamer. I've got a 3-team play this week. I'm trying to cash a 3-teamer for the 4th time this season. Last couple of weeks haven't been all that hot because I've just had some bad L's. Vanderbilt plus 10.5, that should have cashed, and it didn't late after Bama scored. My first play this week for this 3-legger is USC money line over Michigan. I know both my guys here on my left and right are both going Michigan to win in LA. I like Lincoln Riley in this spot. There's a reason the Trojans are favored, despite Michigan looking like the better team on paper, and let's face it, on film this season too. Second leg for me of this 3-teamer is LSU minus 8.5 against South Carolina. I like the under here too, but LSU minus 8.5 is the play from this game. I think it'll be ugly. I was telling Emory during break that I think we might see a defensive touchdown in this game. Turnover margin might be, plus 2 or 3 for the winner. And then third is Texas A&M minus 7.5. That's my most confident play of the week. I think the Aggies roll Florida. So USC money line, LSU minus 8.5, Texas A&M minus 7.5 for plus 560 if you cash all 3.
I might be the worst baseball player because the arrogant urge to swing at everything, right? I just needed one coach to be like, hey, man, keep swinging. You're going to hit one. Exactly, coach. So my 4-leg parlay is going to hit because I love these FCS parlays because there's value there. No one understands it. Start with Monmouth laying the 9.5 against Towson. Here's the thing about Monmouth. I've called their games this year. They have the best NFL draft prospect at quarterback in the FCS in Derek Robertson. Throwing the football, he is like Jared Goff reincarnated. And when you look at what they do, if you get one stop or one failed possession against Monmouth, you're down 2 scores and you'll never catch up. So they cover these spreads easily. I also like Austin Peay minus 7.5 against Eastern Kentucky. They're one of these teams that has already dominated an FBS team in beating Middle Tennessee State. I think they'll do a great job against a down year for Eastern Kentucky. I also like Mercer minus 9.5 against Princeton. Princeton has some cool plays, some cool offensive pieces, but the consistency isn't there, and Mercer has found its stride. They're playing great football. Laid the 9.5 with Mercer. And lastly, but certainly not least, Dayton, the Flyers, home of John Gruden, laid a 15.5 against Valparaiso, for those that may not know the lingo. Valpo hasn't played good football in the last 3 to 4 years. They're not as competitive as they once were. Dayton is playing lights out, and this is a very competitive Pioneer League, so laid the 15.5 with the Flyers. They will outpace the Beacons, not Crusaders anymore. They're the Beacons now. And look at that nice little cash we have at the end. That way we can, finally hit and connect on one of these parlays and hit us a home run.
FCS parlays on the CBS Sports College Football Pick Show. We do it all. Emory, real quick, let's go a little bit deeper into Monmouth. What's Monmouth doing on defense that's going to help us cash this minus 9.5?
Putting 11 guys out there. It ain't even about their defense, bro. Their offense scores. The over-under last week in the game I called versus Delaware State was 75.5. I was like, yeah, Vegas tripping. Total was 86. It's crazy. They score at any time they got the ball, they are scoring. They got 4 legit speedsters at wide receiver. It don't matter what you do. They faced the number 1 rushing offense last week in Delaware State, and they still beat them by 10. Crazy.
Look, I'm telling you right now, I'm going to be locked into Monmouth football from now on. My guy Emory Hunt on the call here. If we're talking FCS parlay, let me tap in with my guy. Thanks for tapping in with us on the CBS Sports College Football Pick Show. I'm your host, Richard Johnson, for Brad Crawford and Emory Hunt. We will see you next week on the CBS Sports College Football Pick Show.